Previous guest writes the first question. You've got the envelope, sir. I'm going to turn it over to you to kick us off.
All right. Let's see what we got here. Words of wisdom. All right. Tell us about a mentor from early in your career and how she shaped your trajectory. That's a great question. Yeah, that was one thing I forgot who I was talking to the other day about this, but, because lately I've been looking for a pretty good mentor. Growing up in the teams, I think that's one thing that I did not have much of. There was a lot of people that mentored me, especially as a new guy. But what I mean is like positive mentorship, professional development. There was a lot of different things like that, but growing up in the teams was like early 2000s. So it was like work hard, party even harder. So that's kind of how I do it. Is like, man, if I wasn't the guy that drank the most or went out and partied the most or pulled the most chicks or anything like that, and then showed up the next day bright and early, working off a hangover and still shooting hard and straight, then I thought I was doing good,
Completely side note, but I've heard that conversation come up lately, and they're talking about how the younger generation doesn't drink as much. But the other thing in conjunction with that is how many of the younger generation know that feeling of going out partying all night, waking up 2 hours sleep, like, I still got to get after it today. I don't know if they're going to even experience that anymore.
Well, it's funny you say that because my last platoon, not to go too far in the future, but that was reality that kind of creeped in, and that was about 2013, 2015, a lot in the teams, it was like, hey, if you get in trouble for drinking, it wasn't like, hey, good on you. Oh, everyone's got at least one DUI or something. It was like, you're gone. But a lot of the kids, when I was like a platoon chief, it was like, hey guys, we're going out. And then I go out to like the pool party bar, whatever, down in Key West or something like that. And it's like, guys, I'm like, all right, there's only like a couple guys here. All the new guys, like, where are you guys at? Oh, we're riding jet skis and stuff. And I was like, oh, okay. I mean, myself personally, I don't drink anymore. It's been almost like 5 years, 5 or 6 years, I should say. So I get it.
But also, too, going back to the question and the idea of when you first came in, maybe the word mentor wasn't thrown around, but I bet you guys like to refer to it as a sea daddy, or there was somebody senior to you who maybe didn't put it under a nice umbrella or with a bow of mentorship. It was probably delivered as, hey, pull your head out of your ass, but don't do A, B, or C.
Yeah.
That's still, in a way, mentorship. I'm sure there was a lot of advice that you got that maybe you didn't realize it at the time consciously, but it hits you a year later to, oh, I remember when so-and-so said to do that or something like that.
Yeah. So that was the next part of it. So aside not saying I didn't have plenty of mentors, or someone that like worked with me through my career, but I did have like my C-Dad, or like I was the C-Pup of a guy named Clark Schwedler. That was my first platoon. We were all assigned somebody, so like when I would mess up or, forget something or do something wrong, it was always like, all right, hey, Clarky, get your C-Pup. You guys are doing buddy carries or some other stuff. I remember that specifically, but yeah, so he was, and what's funny about it is I think back to Buds, but the first time I met him. So I started with class 248. He was class 246, I think. Pardon if I got that wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was 246. And I was new to Buds, and I went up and I saw him, or I was up in the barracks, and he's just kind of standing there chilling, third phaser, probably about to graduate. And I'm like, hey man, what was it like? And he's like, yeah, don't worry, you'll find it out soon enough. A couple other words that I can't remember, but that was the first time I met Clark. But then I met him in about 2006 when I checked into the SEAL team, SEAL Team 4. So the story behind that is, we actually lost him on our first deployment.
I'm sorry.
About 4 or 5 days before we were actually going home. So just a real short story about it. I don't know if you've heard of Mike Day. No, Mike Day.
I've heard the name.
Yeah. So he was the platoon chief. He was our platoon chief, and we were doing a turnover operation in Iraq with the next team coming in. And the crappy part about is I had been up for a couple days doing a couple different operations, And that night before, they had the load list of who's going, who's not. It was going to be a helo half, and helo in, and my sister platoon chief's just like, "Hey, you got Dave on here? Like, you know, he's been up for like 3 days. You can get him break." And I was like, "Hey, I don't want to break. I want to go. Like, I want to be on every single operation." We probably went on an operation, like, if not every night, every other night. But that was the night that all that happened. The guy that took my place at the time, because I didn't go, I'm sleeping and I get woken up from my sister platoon chief, and he's like, "Hey, you know, Mike's shot, Clark's KIA, and the other guy, you know, the other person, Judge is his last name, from the other team coming in, got shot up, and that was the guy that took my place as a medic, because I was a medic." So anyways, we lost Clarky, and I guess the story behind that to the question is that, you know, just the being raised up in the team, having someone to like talk to, you know, kind of keep me in line, being a good new guy, or otherwise, you know, he was probably the mentor that kind of set me in for my career.
Before we go deep into your story, staying on that topic though.
Yeah.
Do you remember the point in your career where you consciously changed, wanting to take on more of a role to being a mentor to the younger guys?
Yeah. You know, they, in the SEAL teams, they say, "Hey, you know, you're a new guy, 1 platoon. You do your 2nd platoon, you're a 2 platoon wonder. You think you know everything. You know, you're cocky, you know, jerk, ass, whatever." And I think that's how it went in that order for me. Probably about my 3rd platoon, after I went over to call it trade at the train attachment over there. I was still just like that cocky young team guy. And it wasn't until I think the next platoon that I kind of stepped all over my dick a bit. And I was like, "Yep, I'm the platoon chief now." Or no, so I went over and I'm the LPO. And I didn't really sell my dick then. Sorry, I'm gonna go back. I went too far.
So many stories.
Yeah. So my memory is definitely off here a little bit. So I went over to train attachment, and that's when I got married. You know, my wife was pregnant at the time. So I'm going over to a new pick up an LPO spot over at a team. There was like SEAL Team 2. And that's kind of when, you know, I'm like, I'm married, I'm about to have a kid. I was asked to come over and fill this role as an LPO. And I'm like, holy shit, like someone's asking for me. So new responsibility, pretty big. And once I found out, hey, we're going to Afghanistan, we're going to go do the VSP stuff. So be in a village in the middle of the mountains. And I think for me, that's when a lot of things clicked. But I was still like hey, I want to be one of the boys, but not like step into this like leader mentorship role. I'm just like, I'm there, but I'm still kind of like, hey, I got to be with the younger, you know, team guys and kind of like be that happy medium between like, you know, the chief, the OIC, and the young guys to make sure like everybody's happy. Very tough. But that was kind of the first shift for me. And I think the biggest thing that happened is
when it comes to sunglasses, first responders and military members definitely don't baby them. They get dropped, thrown in a utility pocket, or tossed in gear bags. Frontline Optics was created for that reality. You get premium eye protection without paying designer brand prices for something that won't survive your lifestyle. From polarized UV 400 lenses to anti-reflective coatings and a water-repellent finish, every pair is designed to handle long days, harsh conditions, and real work. And here's where Frontline Optics separates themselves from the pack. When life happens and your glasses break, they offer a no-questions-asked replacement program, even for prescription glasses. On top of that, Frontline Optics was founded by a firefighter, and a portion of every purchase goes to support the First Responders Children's Foundation, helping families of those who gave everything. So if you're looking for sunglasses that look good, are built tough, and come from a company that actually understands the job, visit frontlineoptics.com and use the promo code TRANSITION10 to get 10% off your purchase. Frontline Optics, from a first responder for the front lines.
We ended up towards the end of our deployment having like some problems where we're at. So I can go into that if you want.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
Try to remind me. Let's give everybody the full scope of the story of you.
Yeah.
Take me back to the beginning. Where you born? Where'd you grow up?
Yeah. Born and raised Cleveland, Ohio. Spent 19 years of my life in the same house, the same neighborhood, and the same block. It was basically South Euclid, Ohio. So South Euclid is just like a suburb outside of Cleveland. So Cleveland Heights, South Euclid, Lyndhurst, Mayfield Heights, Beechwood, like that kind of area. If anybody's familiar, and it's funny is I meet a lot of guys that are from Ohio, and we're all around like a 2 to 3 hour radius of each other. So Ohio has produced a lot of team guys, so to speak.
As far as family-wise, big family as far as brothers, sisters?
So I did have an older sister, a half-sister from my dad's first marriage. I think she's about 10 years older than me. And I have a younger sister who's 2 years younger than me. So my parents got divorced when I was 5. So I could look back and remember, my dad leaving when I was 5. And, then after that, it was just me and my sister with my mom. She's working full time. Started working she was a mail carrier. And then my dad, I'd see him on the weekends. And, he ran his own business as like a dental tech or some kind of dental business. But that was kind of my life growing up. Standard, regular family, divorced family. Me and my sister growing up, played baseball growing up, eventually playing football.
Never got into wrestling growing up in Ohio?
I did like this wrestling camp one time and I like took the top, I don't know how you say it, man. I did like it was like a summer wrestling camp tournament kind of thing, but I didn't do any wrestling other than that. I did like some judo stuff or whatever. Like back then it was like karate and judo was like the thing,
Right.
But just me and my sister growing up with my mom, I didn't get to do all that stuff. I did that. And then I tried to get into, it actually wasn't until like high school that I tried to get into wrestling. And I'm like, all right, dude. Yeah. Like working with some younger guys, like the freshmen or something like that. Cause I was like a junior, I think, or something. I'm like, yeah, I'll try wrestling out again. Cause other than that, I haven't done any. And like, I just get bodied by this little dude, like, that weighs like 30 pounds less than me. I'm like, this is fun. But my experience level was like so low. I mean, how it is. Like, get kids that have been doing it since they're little,
Yep.
And it's a big skill thing.
Any aspirations for college while you were in high school?
No, not really. While I was in high school, the most important thing to me was auto shop. So working on cars and automotive performance. So, and probably girls. So girls and partying and cars when I was going through high school. So I didn't really want to go to college. I didn't really care about it. I just, kind of cared about doing my own thing.
Were you making any plans at all for what was going to be after high school?
I started working at some restaurants. So I did like a busser. I was a busser at a restaurant. Then I went over another restaurant and I was like a prep cook. So I'd work in the back and then eventually started working like one of their stations in the back. It was like pizzas. And then I worked my way to be in the front. So I started doing some line cook stuff and I got really passionate about that. I really enjoyed working in a restaurant, started cooking, eventually went over to another restaurant and was like a line cook there. So I'd work like all the stations.
Did you have any cooking experience when you started doing that?
I remember taking a couple cooking classes when I was a kid. I mean, my mom made sure we had dinner cooked every night, I think, and that was about it.
So not like grandma making big, huge meals every Sunday or anything like that where you're used to what I say cooking, like making complex meals.
Every holiday, my mom had the family over. So it was like my aunts, uncles, cousins would always come over for every holiday. We celebrate all the Jewish holidays. So for all those, I mean, it was like multiple during the year. And that's when we'd have the big meals. So I'd help out with that.
Was it ever anything that you're thinking, let me make this my path in life?
I did.
Culinary Institute, all that type shit?
I did. I thought about culinary school. That just never kind of came to fruition for me. I eventually left there. It was like kind of like my senior year in high school. And I got into construction landscape. So more of a manual labor, so to speak. So we would do like full yard build outs, decks, gazebos. So we would do, brick laid patios, driveways. So that was kind of landscape construction that I actually eventually got into. And I think I did that for my last 2 years. Well, I did that for my senior year, and then I went back for a second senior year because I got in a little bit of trouble and got kind of suspended and kicked out of school. Defending a woman's honor. That's basically what it was. I got in a fight. So I did that afterwards.
But enough that it got you suspended long enough that it impacted your ability to graduate?
Yeah. I wasn't really doing really well in high school. Like I was saying before, is I didn't care much about it. Looking back, I wish I did. I wish I, had someone kicking me in the ass besides my mom. She always tried to do what she could do. But I just cared about everything else. So
what was your relationship like with your dad? You mentioned going to see him on the weekends, but other than that,
he recently just passed in August. So, I thought about that a lot growing up. I didn't, it's kind of on him. Like I said, my dad were divorced when I was 5, and it was like, I think I saw him every other weekend after that. I didn't get to spend a lot of time with him. I played baseball my whole childhood. I could probably count on one hand the times that he either came to my games or any practices. So, and they didn't live too far from each other.
Right.
But
how does the military come on your radar?
Yeah. So here I am. I have a couple of buddies that they were actually younger brothers of guys that were in my grade level. And somehow we all kind of reconnected through friends and otherwise. I hung out with people that were younger than me, older than me, I'm trying to think back to how it all happened, but needless to say, it kind of happened like I was sick of the drugs and crap and dramatic people in high school and people that I grew up with. And I'm like, I just need to get out of here. So I started talking to these guys. Well, it goes back to kind of my senior year. All the recruiters come in, Army, Marines or otherwise. And, the Marine Corps guy was kind of jerking me around a little bit. I ended up connecting with an Army guy and I did the ASVAB. So I had that kind of hanging out, and then fast forward to a point of hearing a couple of my buddies, younger brothers, like, hey, yeah, we're going to the Navy. And I was like, yeah, I was thinking about doing special forces. And then I started hearing about SEALs. And we're talking and they're like, I'm like, well, you guys are leaving? When are you guys leaving? They're like, yeah, we're leaving in a couple weeks. And I was like, no shit. I was like, man, maybe there's a chance I can get out of here. So literally I went, talked to the recruiter, was like, hey, I already took the ASVAB for the Army, but that guy's been jerking me around. What's up? And he's like, yeah, I'll get you out of here in 2 weeks. So I went home, told my girlfriend, told my mom, I was like, hey, I'm leaving for the Navy in 2 weeks. And they're like, what? But honestly, I think it was the best thing I could have done because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Guys were really into drugs and other crap, soon after I left for the Navy, I just would hear about all sorts of guys overdosing, getting in trouble, and all that other stuff. So that started my kind of trajectory into the military. Now,
you mentioned being a corpsman. So when you went in, did you want to be a corpsman or did they have to kind of convince you?
No one convinced me. It was more of an opportunity. So when I went to go come in the Navy, I was like, hey, I want to be a SEAL. They're like, well, if we can't get you SEALs, what else do you want? I was like, well, I like mechanical stuff and automobile performance. So what about airplanes? It's like, what? All I could think back was Top Gun. Cause I would build model airplanes and stuff when I was younger. And they're like, yeah, what about, an airplane mechanic? I was like, oh, that sounds cool as a second job if the SEALs don't work out. Right. So they're like, hey, we get you F-14s and you could go be an F-14 mechanic. I don't know if it happened like that. I think I figured out the F-14 part later, maybe, but I was like, cool. So I'll go in, maybe I'll be an airplane mechanic, but I want to be a SEAL. But I didn't know about the contracts. I didn't know about any of that other stuff. So that's kind of what I did for my first 3 years.
So when you went into boot camp, you didn't go in on a contract?
No, but I did go work out with the SEAL guys there. And I was just like, holy shit. These guys are push-ups, sit-ups, like crazy workouts like that. And then they're running 3+ miles on a track.
Was that the Dive Motivator program?
Yeah. So there was a Dive Motivator program there.
So what year did you go in?
99.
99.
Yeah, July 99, I think, is when I went into boot camp and then didn't finish boot camp till about November. So,
getting to your first assignment as an aircraft mechanic, where was that at?
Virginia Beach. Yeah. So
land-based, or were you like on a carrier?
So it's land-based. So I started out my career, go to A school, kind of like everyone does. You go to your school or MOS or whatever it is to learn. And then after that, I'm like, cool, I get to go home like for like the holidays. And then like, yeah, and you're going to check in your new command Christmas Day. And I was like, what the hell, man? It was bullshit, but I was like, whatever. I'm new in the Navy. I didn't care. So I basically went back home to Ohio after A school, enjoyed like 2 weeks of leave. And then Christmas Day, I fly out to Virginia Beach, check into my first command. And so for not a lot of people, or maybe people don't understand, is in the aviation community, you're attached to this like big carrier group. So you deploy on carriers, unless you're like a helo squadron or something, you might deploy on these smaller boats. But our squadron, along with a bunch of other squadrons that equal the carrier air group, we were in Virginia Beach. The carrier I went and deployed on was John C. Stennis. So checked in my command. They're like, hey, you got this C school, which is another school. And after that, you're going to go meet the squadron on deployment. So this was 2001 or 2000-ish. Yeah, 2000. So I go out and meet my carrier on deployment. And I think this is 4 months I only spent out there, and we were supporting, what war? Probably the initial push or other stuff. Or maybe that was my second deployment. I can't remember. But yeah, that was my first interaction.
So then where were you on 9/11?
Yeah. So that's a great one, because we're in Fallon, Nevada. So that's where like Top Gun is. That's where all the carrier air groups come together and they do all their like bombing, air ranges, all that stuff, whatever I can say about it at least. So I'm in Fallon, Nevada. And on that date, I think I was hanging out with some actual SEALs there. And I was talking about like, hey, I want to go to BUDS. I was training to go to BUDS and stuff like that. So
stupid question. Why were SEALs at Fallon?
Yeah. So that's actually where we go do all of our ground mobility and off-road training.
Okay.
Is actually in Fallon. We have a camp there and everything.
Got it.
So whether or not I'm supposed to say that or not, but so that's, and I actually, and eventually taught there and ran that course. So anyways, I'm there with the squadron and I'm seeing those guys there. But I'm going into the coffee. I think I was going into the coffee shop that morning. I think I was going to meet some guys or something like that. And I walk in, I'm like making an order, and I go up and watching TV. I'm like, oh man, I'm just watching it. I'm like, go over, I'm like, hey, what movie is this? And they're like, what? I was like, yeah, what movie is this? This looks cool. That looks like New York. And they're like, yeah, that's the news. And I was like, what the hell? Like, yeah, right now 2 planes just flew into the towers. And I was like, holy shit. And I don't remember if I had a pager or a phone, or someone was in the coffee shop. It's like, hey, anybody in the squadron? Hey, you need to go ahead and we need to run over the hangar. I'm like, oh shit. And on the way out, I saw some of the team guys and like, hey man, we're out of here, dude. We just got recalled. I was like, holy shit. So I get over to the squadron and they're like, hey, we're getting surged forward. And so 9/11 happened literally while I was out on a training op. And I think a few months later, we were deploying.
Now, in that first enlistment, when you came to the end of it, was that when you then pivoted and got the opportunity to go to BUDS, or was it deeper into your second enlistment?
No. That was my first enlistment. So maybe not a lot of people know this, but once, at least in the Navy, in my experience, I showed up to my first command. I was like, hey, I want to be a SEAL. Like, I want to go to BUDS. And they're like, that's awesome. But you owe us 3 years, a 3-year commitment. I'm like, holy shit. That sunk in. Then I'm like, no matter what I do, unless they release you, the command you're at, to go to one of those programs, you owe them that time. So it's kind of like rotation. You check into a command in the military, you owe them a certain amount of time at that command, and then you're normally up for orders or otherwise. So for me, checked in the command, they're like, hey, you owe us 3 years. So as soon as I got back from that second deployment after 9/11 happened, I was like, yep, going to screen, going to put in my package. But that actually took longer than I thought as well, because paperwork doesn't really happen. And it was like still fax machines, and the internet was kind of like one of those weird things at the moment still. I mean, I don't even think I had a cell phone because it was like 2003. So I'm
just trying to get the picture of you're closing in on the end of that first enlistment.
Yeah.
And so you're going to have to make the decision of staying in or getting out. So I know what you're trying to do is pivot and get to the teams.
Yep.
But what I'm getting at is with that delay in getting paperwork done, how could that or did that impact your reenlistment dates, or do you reenlist and then start the process again to try to get to buds? Is that making sense?
Yeah. So there wasn't like a specific, so most commands you go to, or if you take a billet in some of the military branches, I can only speak for the Navy because that's what I was in. Some of them actually come with a time commitment. So like, let's say you're like, hey, I want to go work on this. So for in the teams, I think if you went to like some kind of training command or otherwise, some sweet billet overseas, let's say you went to an overseas billet or something like, hey, if you do this, it's a 1-year commitment, like that. I didn't have anything like that yet. So I was actually screening, getting ready, and the squadron was getting ready to go on deployment again. So literally for me, it was like the next week or the week after or something, they were leaving on deployment, a 6-month or 7-month deployment on an aircraft carrier. And I'm like, got my orders of buds. So I was like, see ya.
So what I'm getting at is on the outside chance, had that not happened, you could have then had to go and deploy for that entire 6 months, or would they have pulled you off the ship when you finally got the opportunity?
To submit my package, I needed to submit some kind of paperwork that said, hey, the command would release me if I got orders. And then essentially what happened.
Got it.
But if I didn't get orders in time, who knows? But they were already planning on letting me go. So I guess that's the only simple way to it.
And I believe you said you went through class 286?
No, I started with 248.
248.
Yeah. First phase, went through Hell Week, went into second phase, and I'm getting rolled for the tread in second phase, which is where you like tread water for 5 minutes with your hands out of the water, twin 80s on your back, and a 12-pound weight belt, which is your fins. You can't use your feet. And I'm very negative in the water. So it took me 8 times. Yeah. Normally you only get like 4 times. I think 4 maybe. But I passed pool comp, which is the major milestone for second phase of buds. So it's actually, from what my experience, it's pool comp and then the tread are the 2 things that guys normally get the boot for or rolled for in second phase.
How was your swimming leading up to that, getting through the PFQ and all that?
Well,
or PFT?
Yeah. So in first phase, you start doing 2-mile ocean swims. So every week. You do a 4-mile time run.
Well, I'm just talking about even, because didn't you have to do a pre-screening even just to get to the option to go to buds?
Yeah, that was in the pool. It was like a 500-meter swim in under like 14 minutes or something like that.
So pretty basic. No issues with it?
No, because I mean, you're not doing front crawl. You're doing combat side stroke. Yeah, I mean, if you can't, I mean, that's pretty easy.
Okay.
Yeah, no fins though or anything. So slick.
And so when did you class up and when did that start for you?
I classed up in September 2003 with class 248.
And what was at that time, because it's getting busy in the desert. Are they really kind of driving that home to you guys while you're at buds, or did they even need to? I mean, was it already?
Oh yeah. Every instructor lets you know very fast, like, I'm out here with you guys, fuck around on the beach. My fucking brothers are in Iraq, wherever right now, like doing God's work. And you would see literally as I progressed through buds, you would see the guys, even new guys in the SEAL teams right there, because all the teams were lined up on the beach right next to buds. Now they have their huge multi-million-dollar complex, which is amazing, by the way. You would see these guys running back and forth from the beach, getting wet and sandy still. So you're just fired up. I mean, you're like, I can see it right here. Because buds is right next to all the West Coast teams. And you're just like, yep, that's where I want to be. So yeah, I mean, they would all talk about it.
Now, was that one rollback your only issue in the water? Or like pool comp in general, do you have any problem with it?
No, I passed pool comp. I think I'm like my 3rd try. I mean, you basically are holding your breath on and off for a few minutes. So
I've heard guys just describe it as the fact that what jacks them up is there's a very specific order of things. And if you just mess one of them, you're a fail, redo it kind of deal.
Yeah, pretty much. But I mean, I did what everyone else did and what they recommended. So we would be at the compound and I would be like, I'm doing pool comp, and I would go through donning all my stuff. Cause once you get it ripped off you and tied in knots and all that, and you hold your breath, they rip your mask off, you have to reclaim your rig, undo it, put it on properly, check all your straps, like start from the bottom, work your way up, hitting certain touch points, kind of exactly like you're talking about. Or they can kind of go, all right, you fail. And they just come over and they go, come on up. So I think I came up and they're like, hey, you failed. And I was like, oh shit. And the other one, I think I probably panicked. And I was just like, fuck this. I'm just going to the surface. So like, no, you're not. And they shove a scuba in your mouth. So. And then the next one I passed. So
how'd you like land nav and learning all the tactical side of things?
Yeah. Once you get to third phase, that's where that all kind of kicks off. I didn't have too many issues with it. I mean, when you're in buds and you're like, wait a minute, I'm going to go hike around in the mountains for a couple days. No one's going to bother me. I'm not going to get beat or whatever. So you're just like, yeah, it was cool. It was like camp trip with the guys, but you're hiking your butt off all for about a week. So.
Coming to the end of it, your wish list, do you want West Coast or East Coast?
That actually comes back to the question you asked me earlier about the medic stuff. So I wasn't a corpsman. The way the pipeline worked
that's right.
Yeah, the way the pipeline worked for buds is if you were a corpsman, you're like, cool, once you're done with buds, SQT, you go to 18 Delta down at Fort Bragg. That was during my generation. I think they have their own course. But we only had one corpsman, I think. So they're like, during SQT, they're like, hey, we're looking for volunteers. If you volunteer for 18 Delta or to be a medic, you'll probably get your choice of coasts and teams. So when it came down to that, I was like, yep, I want to be a medic. I want to be that guy in case I need, one of my buddies gets hurt or I get hurt. I want to know what to do. Because when we were going through the medical stuff during the training phase there, I was like, your throat and your esophagus and, you breathe and eat. And dude, I felt like an idiot. And I was like, man, I really need to learn this stuff. So for me, that became something I want to do.
So you went to the 18 Delta course?
Yeah. And also was fortunate too enough to go to free fall school as well while I was waiting. Because most guys in that time, now it's like, once you're done with SQT or done with buds, you go to static line and free fall, then you go to SQT. Before it was like you graduate, you go to static line, then you go to SQT. So I found myself fortunate because when I got to the team, there were older guys that had been in there for 2, 3, 4 platoons. And they're like, I haven't even been at free fall school yet. And I was like, wow. So kind of realized
luck of timing.
It was, man. We drew straws for that one. So I got lucky.
But when you got deep into the medical training, how'd you find that? I mean, did you take to it pretty well? You mentioned not being a really good student in school previously. Do you have any issues getting through that?
No, actually, I found some passion in it. I like helping people. And that was another kind of thing that I've realized about myself is I really like to help people be successful. I really like to help people. And I actually really enjoyed it. I had some real fast times and stuff for all the practicals and other stuff. The studying time and the book stuff, that was really tough for me. I remember sleeping, sleeping in the classroom, studying for a test the next day.
When did you actually finally get to your first team?
So yeah, I actually finished, buds, I finished with class 249. So I got rolled into another class, going to 18 Delta, finished that in November of 2005. So I actually checked into SEAL Team 10 right after Operation Red Wings happened, which was end of June 2005. So that was my first team.
And you mentioned how you offered to go to medic school because they said one of the perks was going to be you're going to be able to pick your team. Did you want East Coast and that's why you wanted to try to guarantee it?
Yeah. So as the story goes, I was like, hell yeah, I want to stay in California. This place is awesome, because it was like every weekend drinking, partying, go to the beach. You were on the beach. But all my family was on the East Coast. And, I did the typical thing of getting in a relationship with a girl and she lived back home. So I made the decision to go, all right, I'm going to go to Virginia Beach. And that's where I was going to hang my hat.
Because you had been there for 3 years already. So I'd imagine you already kind of put down a little bit of roots.
Yeah. So the thing is, when you go to graduate buds, you get your order or it's either buds or SQT. I can't remember which one it is. But they tell you where you're going. They're like, hey, after this is going to be your team or your coast. Sometimes it doesn't always play out because of needs and commitments, because after a BUDS class graduates, an SKT class graduates, most of those guys are on the team, go to the team either on deployment or coming back from deployment, because that way they go fresh right up into the workup cycle. So I kind of did get to pick my coast, but that team that I went to was actually the team that I got picked for when I finished BUDS or SKT. So for me, nothing changed. I know, man.
No, you became a corpsman.
Yeah. But every op, what do you take? A medic. So for me, I was like, yep, I'll be the guy that goes on everything. Sure, I'll get the most work. That was my thought process.
How was it like getting into that conveyor belt, that washing machine of because now it's, 2005, you're busier than hell.
Oh yeah.
I guess where I'm going with this is you wanted to be a SEAL, you knew going in, but now you're actually there. And of all times to come into the teams, is it the height of activity?
Yeah. A lot of guys, like I said, going back to like finishing the basic pipeline, guys are like, I want to go to a team that goes to CENTCOM. That was the thing. So both coasts had each teams that kind of covered a different AO, like South America, the Philippines, or otherwise. So on the East Coast, it was like UCOM and South America. West Coast was like Philippines, CENTCOM, and like Thailand or something like that. So guys were like trying to time it, chase it, get to a specific team. But the way it worked out, going through all that, I'm just like, I'm going to end up wherever I end up. So fortunate enough for me, I ended up at a team, and at the teams, there's like three troops, 2 platoons in each. And one troop went to CENTCOM. I got lucky, went there for my first team. I went to Fallujah, went to Iraq. And then the other guys, Europe and South America.
Once you were there, does that lock you in the sense mentality of, I'm going to do a career?
To be honest, you fight every day. At least, when I was in the SEAL teams, you fought every day for your position, your title, your job, your qualifications, and deployment. So if you're in a platoon where guys are like drinking, partying, fighting, getting in trouble a lot, guess where you might go? South America or Europe. But you're going to get what you want at each one of those places anyways, because those are just, there's a lot of different commitments, but, nowadays everyone's fighting for that job to be the dudes that go over and do God's work.
Now, how soon, once you were into it, did you decide I want to put in for TRADET?
You don't always, not a lot of guys put in for that unless you need time. So what a lot of guys do, and even including myself, you're like, yep, I'm going to do another platoon, do another platoon, unless I had a reason to go to training to take a break. That's how I felt. That's how the East Coast mentality was when I was there. The reason why I ended up there is because I tried out for Green Team. So I wanted to go take my career to the next level, and it didn't work out. Great time. A lot of my buddies, finished, went over there. So I had to come back. So the way it is, you come back, they're like, all right, well, we can't take you back to the team. We don't got a spot. Went over to TRADET. But it was cool for me. I really enjoyed teaching. I learned more about myself. I actually became a better SEAL. Instead of my eyes being like this through some blinders, I got the opportunity to be on the other side of the training to watch guys be successful, watch guys fuck up, make mistakes, even more, and then be the person that to help them redefine those skills and take what's going on overseas and bring it no shit to the training right there and have these guys implement real time what they're going to be experiencing. So
when you went over, how many deployments had you had at that point?
So when you're a new guy at a team, you usually do 2 deployments minimum. So 2 pumps, about 4 years. And then you either get lucky to stick around or go over to training command. So I did 2 platoons. They offered me some leadership roles because I was actually been in the Navy for a while. I made E6 on my first deployment in Iraq. So, when that happens and it's the military, you get kind of thrust into all these leadership positions. So I had to take all the RSO jobs, the leadership, whatever roles, like dive supervisor, all that stuff. So I ended up getting set up a little bit better. So when I ended up over at Trade It, I ended up working at Assaults for a year. And then I worked over at our Tactical Ground Mobility Cell for a year. And the reason for that is because somewhere in there I got in trouble. So like, hey, you're partying way too hard here down at our, where we do training here. And we're going to go ahead and just separate you and the other guys that you're hanging out with. So I was like, all right, I'm going to Fallon now. So that was a great time.
From that partying, getting in trouble aspect, would it have been easier to stay out of trouble if you just deployed more?
Yeah, I mean, we were busy. I mean, you're working like really full days, long nights. The guys just needed time to go let off steam and bond. I mean, that was, I think, where some of the bigger relationships and where the teams got closer was not only when we're training and working, but after work. And, you get a bunch of alpha males in a bar somewhere and you get the locals like looking and their chicks are just sitting there drooling over everybody. Some guys get a little, set off about that, but it wasn't always like bar fights and everything else. When I say trouble, it just means that, I don't know, something got out of hand or something, nothing too crazy, but there were those times.
How long did you stay at Trade It?
I did about almost 2 years. And then that's when, the team, one of the teams my buddy was at, I was like team 2. He's like, hey man, our LPO, isn't over here anymore. He got relieved or let go, or he stepped down or something like that. And they're like, hey man, I threw your name in the hat. And I was like, cool. I mean, my wife at the time was like big pregnant. So I was like, all right, yep. Back to the team. LPO was like, let's go. Cause that sets me up for my next rank. Or sets me up for chief. So that was great.
Are you planning the duration of your career at any point? Or are you kind of taking it one enlistment, one day, figuratively speaking, at a time?
Yeah. I mean, I was like, hey, pretty much I'll probably end up doing 20. I didn't have any reason that I would get out. I hadn't been in a serious relationship or had kids or anything yet. I think so. For me, it was like, I'm just going to stay in until I kind of like, that kind of clicks with me.
I guess what I'm saying is more of like, did you ever have a sit down with yourself and go, okay, here's what I want to achieve in my time as a SEAL in the Navy? And did it happen according to plan, or did you just kind of go, hey, I'm at Trade It now, let me see what comes available, and that take pivots as they come? Yeah,
no. I had aspirations for what I wanted to do. I mean, like I said, when I did my first two platoons, I'm like, I'm screening for, the next step. I wanted to be at the top tier team. That was my goal. And I poured everything into it just like I did when I went to Buds. But, some mistakes, stressing myself and, or otherwise it didn't work out. Was grateful for the opportunity, but then I was like, all right, that was a hard reset for me, cause it's like anything else. I'm like, all right, I'm not here. My buddies are continuing on in training. I'm still a SEAL. So for me, it was like, hey, I had to rethink about what I wanted to do. And you're right. At that point, I was like, all right, now I'm just going to go back to the team. I'm going to make the best out of training. I'm going to learn as much as I can. I'm going to go back to another team. And I'm going to continue going up the chain, making sure I could like mentor guys, train guys, and be successful.
Is screening for GRE team a one and done type thing, or could you have gone back around to try again?
I mean, there probably would have been an opportunity for me to go back. I thought about it, but then I made the decision like, dude, my wife's about to have a baby, or I'm about to have a baby, I should say. So for me, it was like me going to green team, newly married, it just, I don't know. Like for me, I was like, for once I was like, I'm not going to be completely selfish. And I'm going to let this opportunity pass, and I'm going to focus on seeing what this family is about. What's having a kid and having a family is about. And that kind of just changed the trajectory in my mindset. So I just kind of refocused.
And after that, you went to team 2, you said?
Yeah. I went team 2, took over an LPO spot over there.
Were you already a father at that point?
No, I had a baby while we started work up over there. So I think she was, probably about 3 months into it as when we had, let me see, I'm trying to think back. My daughter was born in March, and yeah, probably about 3 months before that or so.
How does it change your mental space deploying as a parent?
I mean, it's tough, man. I'm leaving my kid behind who hasn't walked yet. My newish wife. And we only had a short relationship. We we started dating, and then literally like 4 months later, it's like, I'm pregnant. And I was like, it wasn't like, not like it wasn't on purpose, but I was like, wow, like shit changed. I went from like being a single guy partying, like full blown, just living a single life, to like full breaks, full stops. And everyone else around me is just kind of like, it's Dave. Yeah. What's up? We're going out. And I'm like, yeah, not really.
Let's go home and watch Jeopardy.
That was a hard transition. I'll tell you that. And I didn't do it well.
Does being an LPO though kind of help that process, because you're now in a position where you need to be more of a thinker, more of a, hey, let's look at the betterment of the entire team?
Yeah. I mean, for me personally, it was hard because I'd never been there before.
There's a moment in life when you realize it was never about you. Grind, spelled GRND, is different. There's no I in it on purpose, because the mindset was never about ego. It's about the mission. Started by a former Army Ranger, it's not about where you are. It's about how you show up. Different lives, different pressures, but the same mindset. Grind isn't clothing you wear just to look good. It's a reminder of why you keep going when it gets tough, and you keep putting in the work when no one's watching. This isn't just fashion, it's fuel. Because real work isn't loud. Real effort doesn't need applause. And real purpose doesn't quit. Head over to thegrindcollective.com. That's the GRND collective.com. And use the promo code transition15 for 15% off your order.
It's a lot of figuring out. A lot of fucking up, a lot of having, I'll say like luckily my chief, my OIC was very, very smart guy. My chief was a, pretty experienced dude, been around a long time. So I had these, even though like I'm older than the OIC, I've done more platoons, that's just the way the officer, thing works for most of these things. Like usually an officer will do like one platoon, go do something else, come back, and next thing you know, he's the OIC. So he's in charge of like 20 some guys. But luckily he's next to a guy that's done like 3-4 platoons or something, been in the teams for almost 12 years. Luckily I had those guys to like kind of like reel me in, tell me to shut the fuck up, or kind of hold me back and say like, hey man, you're working above your, but I'm just a guy trying to solve problems, trying to solve problems, set the stage, mentor the other guys, and kind of be that stopgap. So yeah, that was definitely a learning experience.
When you got to Team 2, how many years in?
Man, I had 4 years of buds, re-enlisted. Man, I was probably about halfway through my career. Probably like at least 10, maybe 12, because I made chief when I got back from that deployment. And that was the deployment we had a bunch of stuff, a bunch of work. We were accused of all these war crimes and stuff like that. So that's a whole nother story.
Were you able to kind of get out from underneath that without much hassle? Or?
Yeah. I mean, if I were to tell you a story about like the dynamic impact of something that happened in my career and changed the trajectory of my career and my life, that would be it.
Yeah, I'm not trying to put you in a position to talk about.
Happy to talk about it, but that platoon at Team 2 and everything, man, like becoming a father, getting married till about the end of my career almost, that had a huge impact on a lot of things I made decisions on, or made bad decisions at least too.
Does it change your perspective on wanting to stay in?
It did, because I'm navigating, so long story short, we're out at our VSP site and I wake up to some of the Army guys with us, waking me up going like, Dave, I'm the senior man there. Dave, there's an explosion at our checkpoint, 750 yards away. I'm like, fuck, we're going to get attacked. That's what it is, right? They blow up a checkpoint, diversion area. Next thing you know, we're getting ambushed. And we had the roof, 50 cals, miniguns, everything. So long story short, I wake everybody up. We man this. Next thing you know, the Taliban bombed one of our checkpoints. So that kind of like dealing with accusations and everything afterwards, because what we were accused of was detainee abuse by our Army partners, the guys that were there. No, nothing against the big Army, but when we had like a regular group of infantry guys there to support us and plus us up, for defense, for logistics, for otherwise, that we never worked with before either. So there's a huge dynamic. SEAL platoon, some Army infantry guys that were used to working with ODAs and other stuff, the guys that we relieved before us. So They accused us of some more of detainee abuse and some other stuff. Went straight behind our backs and did it. So the taste in my mouth was like working with these guys, fuck that. And then dealing with the downfall of the platoon getting disaggregated and me and 3 other guys getting named out. Me, the AOIC, and 2 other guys. So another short story about it is we were trying to help the locals understand one of the guys they brought over to us who is guilty of blowing up one of their family members and friends. And we were leaving 2 days later, downgrading the site and leaving. So the political sense of all of that stuff, we got exonerated. And that was 2012-13. We got exonerated from a whole process of going through Commodore's Mass and otherwise. So it was just shy of, I don't know if you're familiar with NJP. It's NJP, but court-martial. So the next step would have been court-martial or something. But did a whole thing. We got exonerated.
How long is that process to get through that whole thing?
They were still in our brothers, the platoon guys, the rest of my platoon, I should say. We had this whole big operation plan to go on once we downgraded. And literally when we landed retrograding that site, the XO and other stuff, it's like, hey, get in the tent. I'm like, hell yeah, we're getting awards or some shit. No, what we did is got confined to a tent. They took all of our guns, sensitive items, and they're like, basically like, fuck you. And I'm just like, what the fuck's going on? And luckily one of the other guys is like, hey man, the Army guys like went behind our backs, told their command that we were like doing all this shit when realistically we were helping our partner force do some battlefield interrogation to figure out, are we about to get ambushed? Like, what are these dudes doing here? And we had already sent all of our Humvees away, half of our ammo, everything else. I mean, we're bare bones. So that process probably played out for about 6 months or longer. So it cut my family up.
Did it keep you deployed longer or did they send you back home?
No, I mean, I just injured my back too. They're about to medevac me. And I'm like, man, I'm not leaving my guys. So me and 3 other dudes spent the next 20 some days in a tent until we left. So, they got us out of there pretty quickly afterwards.
How bad did you screw up your back?
I'd have surgery. My left leg wasn't working. I couldn't even stand up on my tippy toe. However you say that. I was getting no heel lift, I should say.
What happened?
We were moving some stuff in a helicopter, retrograding a site, and the helo did something shifted. I don't know. I fucked up my back.
Nothing cool.
Nothing cool at all. No cool story. I've just been kind of fortunate in my career to where I've, either near missed or avoided some serious injuries. But we were doing something, moving some shit, and I got compressed between 2 pallets or something. But had a herniation in my L5S1 with a free-floating fragment in my spine and a severe nerve impingement. So my left leg, and even still this day, my calf's not the same. So,
do you have that surgery while you're still active?
Yeah. So I went back a couple months later, had the surgery, immediate relief, and then I made chief, and then I had to go through this whole chief initiation process with stitches still hanging on my back. And they're like, hey, don't do anything. But I was trying to sneak in there and do all the chief's initiation stuff because I didn't want to be that guy that's like, hey, you just made chief and you didn't do all the stuff that everyone else did,
So nothing like a protracted recovery period or anything like that?
I mean, I still have issues to this day. It'll never be the same. I still got cramps and stuff. But, it's kind of one of those things, like what you do in the military. You get hurt, setback, or otherwise, just put your head down and you keep going.
When you made chief, what team? Where did you stay at 2?
Yeah, well, I think as soon as I got back, they kicked us out of the to and we were TAD somewhere. And then once we got exonerated, I went over and was asked, I was asked to go be an ops chief is what they call it. Support the platoons back over at Team 10. And then I eventually got a platoon chief spot after that deployment. And
then just trying to follow the calendar line.
Yeah, no.
So 2 made chief, went to Team 10.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be coming closer or closing in on the end of your career at this point, right?
Yeah.
The 13, 14 year mark, maybe?
Yeah, I was getting close to the 14 to 15 year mark, I think, about that time.
Are you starting to think about, at this point now, are you know you're not doing more than 20?
The way me and my wife planned out at the time was we were going to retire. I was going to try and go get we have this pretty cool billet up in Kodiak, Alaska, teaching winter warfare. And it was like, and she was from Wasilla, so she was from Alaska. She's my ex-wife now, but the plan was to go up there, get a billet, and then retire. Literally. But between me, probably, like I said, making some poor decisions, and I ended up working for ops again at Team 10, and then ultimately 2015 we went to the West Coast. So
what prompted the move to the West Coast?
Me and my AOIC didn't really agree on a few things. I was kind of like still figuring out the leadership thing. We were crushing it operationally. We were probably one of the top troops, top platoons at the team. But I went down, and I'll just completely say it out. Like we went down to Key West for a dive trip. The dive trip started on Monday. We skydived in to the airfield on a Thursday. So here we are, all the guys, Thursday afternoon, just jumped in. What do we do for 4 days? Well, we go out and we drink, we have a good time. And I just had too good of a time one night. I saw my OIC. He's like, hey, man, heard you're getting a little wild. Why don't you stay in? And I just kind of went in my room, vented, was pissed off. Wasn't really drunk, but I probably should just listen to the guy. And then I ended up just going back out, seeing where all the guys were, and saw him out. We just had a disagreement. And then he just basically went and was like, hey, Dave's acting like this, like that. And they called me back. And that was kind of it. I left the platoon. So didn't really build too much good trust with that relationship. I focused more on the platoon and how we were performing rather than my relationship with my OIC. And for me, that was a huge, I'll just say, mistake and letdown on my behalf of going like, you're in a leadership role. You may or may not agree, but I should have probably worked a lot harder in solidifying that relationship. I do blame him a little bit, instead of like coming to me the next day before like burning the bridge down to where it's unrecoverable.
Well, you hit the nail on the head. It's a relationship.
True.
It's a relationship. You both got to bring 50-50 to the table, so to speak.
Yeah. Cause the next day I went around, cause I think one of the guys I like, was a little rude to him as well. And I was like, hey man, sorry dude, was a total dick last night, this, that, and the other, and then went back to my room, and then him and someone else came in and were like, hey, we're sending you home, this, that, and the other. And I was like, man, you didn't even want to talk to me, huh? Okay. But no issues before that. This was kind of like the one thing that happened. And I was like, all right, focus on the relationships, build the trust. It's a two-way street, and that was a huge learning point for me. And it actually changed the trajectory of my career and how I was a leader afterwards.
Do you think it changed anything as far as your duration? Could a better relationship at that end and that experience there potentially made you stay longer?
Yeah, I mean, I think if it was the next day, we just kind of brought it in, kept our dirty laundry, and he gave me the opportunity the next day, clear mind, both of us, no alcohol in the system or any otherwise, and kind of been like, hey, Dave, the shit you're doing, don't do that shit anymore. Like, or whatever. I don't really care. However he would have said it to me or otherwise, I'd have been like, yeah, you're right, dude. But instead, it was like went behind my back, told on me to dad without having that conversation the next day with a clear mind, kind of like made me resentful and hateful about it. And I was mad for a while because I was like, man, dude, real distrust. I mean, he had some distrust in the platoon, and I could have been the guy that brought it back together. But I blame myself a lot for that. But I also been like, hey man, you didn't even give me the chance afterwards.
Does getting back out getting to the West Coast do anything for you kind of career-wise, in the sense, did you bring I'll use the word, did you bring a shadow with you coming to the West Coast, or was it clean slate? Hey, boards erased, we're good to go?
That's a fair question. But honestly, I think me realizing how much I stepped on my dick, pretty much. And I went into ops because I didn't leave the team right after that. I went into operations and they're like, hey, you're now going to support the troops doing the rest of their workups and their big exercises before they leave. So here I am, moved from one big responsibility now to another. So I just kind of put my head down, made everything work, stepped up to the plate, and was like, all right, like I said, my wife at the time was like, hey, what if we moved out? What if we get out of Virginia Beach? What if we move to the West Coast? What if we go out there in one of the other teams and kind of get a fresh start? I was like, and we're closer to Alaska. She's closer to her family. And I was like, okay, fine, let's do it. So I called around to the teams, called the different master chiefs, and was like, hey, here's me. Here's who I am. Here's my background. Would you give me an opportunity? Of course, and they don't just take that as gospel. They make their calls and everybody else. But, the decision was not my tactical or SEAL shit. It was my off time kind of like stupid liberty shit. I was a bit of a liberty risk, I should say. You know what I mean? At the moment. But yeah, your reputation follows you everywhere. Once you get one, it's your opportunity to prove people wrong.
And when you got to the West Coast, how many years left did you have?
About 5.
And how were the last 5 years for you?
It went like my first couple years in the teams. It was probably another great part of my career. I was fortunate enough to go to Team 5, work for a great master chief and a great commanding officer, and all the leadership there were really great, really welcoming. Kind of said literally, like you said about reputations and what do they say is I literally came in there and the CO and the CMC are both like, hey, Dave, heard a lot of great things about you, a lot of great things about your reputation. We know what happened, but here it is. You get a fresh slate with us. Whatever happened there is in the past and was that. You're now building a new reputation here. So whatever you do will precede you of how we see fit. So I was like, okay, thank you. Like for me, that was like big, huge breath of fresh air of a new start.
You need those in your careers.
I did, man.
Not just you. I meant more like figuratively. Yeah. We need those in our careers because every one of us does something stupid along the way. And a real big turning point is that one leader who actually goes, hey, that was a mistake. Let's turn the corner and do better.
That's big because I grew up in the military. I was a immature fucking punk kid coming in thinking I just wanted to be the baddest motherfucker on the block and come into the SEAL teams. And that's kind of how I acted. Like once you get that title, man, it's like, all right, bulletproof, cocky as hell. And what I found out growing up is, the way the military does it sometimes is you make a mistake, they burn you to the ground. And honestly, the stuff that happened at Team 10, although I did step on my shit and I messed up, they did the paperwork to make sure that I didn't succeed in the rest of my career, unfortunately. So, but anyways, as far as gaining rank, not, being successful was on me. So that was great that I didn't get completely burned to the ground. I built a new reputation. And as luck had it, I went and did an operations thing, supporting some other guys, started building a good relationship, great dudes. And another chief worked himself out of a job. I was the next one in it. And man, that was just like I told you before, building that relationship between me and the OIC, that's the first thing I told him. I said, hey, this is what happened to me in my last command with my last OIC. I just want to let you know the most important thing to me is me and you building relationship and building trust, because with the guys, it's easy. With the leaders, it's difficult because we're always the duty blame guy, right?
Did you get to deploy while you were in 5?
Yeah. Yeah. We actually, so I stepped in, picked up the platoon right into workup, which was cool because I was just coming off of one with another team, and we deployed direct.
Anything residual with your back and redeploying?
Always, but it really made diving and swimming a lot harder. My leg always cramps up and shit. So that kind of sucked for me during dive phase. But other than that, nah.
Anything operationally different that you noticed between East Coast teams, West Coast teams, as far as once you were deploying?
There was a little bit of different mentality. When I was in the East Coast, work hard, play hard, work hard. And all the training sites were pretty remote. They weren't local to Virginia Beach. So the dynamic of training and working up for deployment was a bit different because you're just like all over the place. You're gone a lot. Like we would say the saying goes is there's 360 days, 365 days in a year, whatever. You're gone 300 of them. On the West Coast, it was like all the training was local. So you'd just drive there or you'd go out to the island. The mentality is just like anything else. Different people, different leaders, different mentality. But the mentality is like work hard and crush, crush your job pretty much for the most part. So
as you're closing in on the tail end of your career, you're starting to plan for what's next. Were you making plans, or did the exit date just kind of pop up on a calendar? You're like, all right, tomorrow I'm a civilian.
Yeah. So the way it worked out for me is I was able to come into that team and jump right in and help the platoon be successful, which also made me successful in my career. We got chosen to be part of one of the troops going to Iraq, help with the Mosul clearance, fighting ISIS guys. So that's what we did. We went there. Our sister platoon went up north, supported the whole Mosul clearance. We, stood back and we covered down a different area, and we're probably fighting ISIS dudes like every couple of days. It was really like flat warfare, front line of troops with like big berms, and like anything on the other side is bad. So that actually part of my career right there, about January-ish, we get shut down, and all the stuff I was talking to you about earlier about like the war crime stuff and all that, here comes politics again. That came back actually. So
they reopened that old can of worms.
They did. I'm hearing grumblings from my buddies over, on the East Coast still. And they're like, hey, Dave, they're bringing that shit back up. And I'm like, what? So here it is. I suffered a deployment, all that shit in my marriage, my kids, the stress, the shit changed me, to now I'm on deployment again. I feel like I'm at the height of coming back in my career. Great dudes, best platoon ever, just like my very first platoon. Everything in between was still cool. But like the chance where I really got to like mentor dudes, have a huge impact on a lot of guys' careers, and then do great work. The New York Times is about to write an article and gives the Navy a heads up about our stuff in Afghanistan. I don't know why. Maybe the Army dudes are talking. I got no idea why. Next thing you know, we're getting issued paperwork to go to court-martial for that exact thing. Just a few months before the statute of limitations passes. So here I am again. Just
the same 4 team guys originally that you had mentioned?
Yep. Same 4 guys, same things, making it real. So, my team was blindsided by it. I was blindsided by it. So next thing you know, I said, hey, we're getting on a call with the CO. They got something they need to tell you. One of my buddies already hit me up through email or otherwise and was like, hey man, this is happening. And he was a platoon OIC. So he's about to deploy with his guys. I'm on deployment. And the other 2 guys, I forget what they were doing. So next thing I know, I'm on a Zoom call or a, whatever you would call it, with my CO and my CMC, and they're like, hey, look, Dave, we didn't know about this. This is happening. You're going to end up going to court-martial. And then the next questions were, hey, do you want to come home or do you want to stay out there to the end of deployment? Because we got your back no matter what. And I was like, yep, I want to stay out here on deployment. I want to finish the next few months with my guys, and I want to come home the right way.
Who's driving this train to reopen it and actually bring it to court-martial? Is it the Navy or is it Department of Defense? Is it, are you ever officially told?
No fucking clue. The thing that I got, and when I heard, when I was hearing a couple of the admirals' testimonies, the flag, the group one, the Warcom, they brought in a couple guys. I'm not talking about who or whatever, but the just that I got from it was like, hey, it was brought back up, politics and otherwise, they kind of made the decision to move forward with the court-martial.
Where does the process take place?
Here in San Diego. Yeah. The way it just played out is luckily we got some lawyers that were attached or had relationships with a nonprofit, United American Patriots, a great group. They support people being supported with war crimes. Basically I didn't pay a dime. They covered the whole thing. So that took place here, and
how long did that second process take?
Fucking like 3 years.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
So you basically kind of closed out your career dealing with that.
Yeah. I mean, dude, I was so fucking stressed, and like, I get off that call, I'm like, what the fuck do I tell my wife, man? Yeah, my kids. Like, here I am at the end of my career. I got 2 years left, 2.5 maybe, to retirement.
Good coffee is important, but where it comes from matters also. Blue Line Roasting is a Tennessee-based, law enforcement-owned company. They're roasting small batches of premium coffee, fresh within 48 hours of your order. Whole bean or pre-ground, and shipped fast to you. It's great coffee that shows up ready for you to enjoy. But it's what your purchase does for others that makes it so much more. A portion of every order goes to support law enforcement families dealing with the impact of line-of-duty injury or loss. So you get a great cup of coffee, and a family gets support. Order a single bag, try a sampler pack, or start a subscription so it's there when you need it. Oh, there's another perk. Shipping is always free. And for listeners of this podcast, use the promo code TRANSITION10 to get 10% off your purchase. Go to bluelineroasting.com and stand behind a company that stands with those who serve.
So I took the time, took a week or two, got a lawyer in place, made sure that I was on the right trajectory. And then that's when I called my wife at the time. I was like, hey, it's back. I got a plan. Here's what's happening. So last time I just called her and I was like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? And then spent like 3 weeks in a tent, on my back, on a cot, getting physical therapy every day, needle. Anyways, yeah. I mean, that was like what the fuck moment for me. I mean, the stress just changed me. It was so hard to deal with. Coming home from that, reintegrating with the family was difficult. And then having to just kind of go through that process for the next 2.5 years, to the point where my wife was like, we're rocky. I can't see end in sight with this shit. I don't know what's going to happen with our future, our kids' future. Like, I got to go. And literally, that was like April 2019. Yeah, we got separated. And then literally like 2 months later, they're like, hey, we dropped all the charges. There's a big thing going on with Eddie Gallagher at the time. I'm not sure if you're familiar. Yeah. Tried to rope me into that. I mean, they pulled all the stops out, man, to try and screw us over until they lost that case with Eddie. I was like, got a hold of his lawyer and was like, hey man, I need help. We've had multiple conversations. And he basically told the Navy, he was like, ready for round 2? And they're like, no. So just to save you the pain of that whole shit show, Team 5 gave me the benefit of the doubt. Master Chief over there took me over to training command. I ran one of the bigger cells over there. So, I was still who I was as a team guy and a leader. They still let me do my job, give back. And then it was time for me to kind of step down from that last role. And then everything went away.
So basically that case wraps up. You've got how much time left before you hit 20, or you were thinking about retiring?
Oh, my 20-year mark was July 19.
Oh, so you had already crossed it.
Yeah.
So then does that close out? You get that off your back and you're like, screw it, I'm done?
Yeah. I mean, I I honestly, man, the way politics and other shit was shaping up, like I couldn't tell what was what, and let alone be in charge of a group of guys and being able to protect them, have their back, or at least just do my own job without politics, man, and open myself up. Because, dude, we were in Afghanistan doing village stability operations, like shit that they didn't do since back in like Nam, right? And we'd only been doing it for like 2 or 3 years. The SEAL teams, I should say. I would say I think the Green Berets probably had more experience doing that type of stuff, but it's not very hard once you start doing it. So there's scenarios you end up in like, oh, we have like bare minimum stuff. Our checkpoint gets attacked. The villagers want to have revenge on a guy, you know, that they think's a bad dude. Like literally like those guys over in Afghanistan were like, hey, that guy's a bad guy. You care if I go kill him? We're like, no, you can't like just murder a dude in front of us based upon your, like, you want to do that when we're gone? Fine. So here we are in a situation trying to figure it out, help them figure out who killed their family member. And we get dudes that are just doing disingenuous things because they weren't down there with us working. And then we play through this whole process. And now I'm just like, you're exonerated. And literally the command master's like, hey, now that's all behind you. We got another job for you over at this other team. You want to jump in? And I'm like, no. Like, it wasn't, I just didn't have the ability to go like, man, I just went through a divorce or separation. I'm getting divorced. I'm now a single dad of 2 half the time or whatever our custody schedule was. The last thing I want to do is leave my life in shambles when I just recover, when I'm now trying to recover of like 3 years of not knowing what my future holds.
Well, even getting through that, that's got to put a sour taste in your mouth to even think about deploying again and getting wrapped up in something else that somebody's going to review.
You know, that was my thought. Like, I'm going through all this shit, and at any moment, no senior dude in my chain of command or otherwise was just like, hey, I got something. These guys were exonerated back in 2013. Like, why are we doing this again? Like, really? Why? For what? Like, some accusations? Like, they're literally trying to send dudes back to Afghanistan in 2018. 2019. I mean, dude, half those people at our village or that stability little center we built out there out of plywood, rocks, and mud that we were living in for like 5 months at least, we were. Everyone there was probably dead or murdered the minute we left, you know, or otherwise. You know, who knows? And they're trying to like send people back there to like get information to still put us in prison for what? Like, we didn't do anything. Anyways, it flushed out that same way, and you're right. I did have a big, horrible taste in my mouth of like what real leadership should have been. And someone should have stepped up, guys in my corner or otherwise. But that's politics. When you're in the military, people are very hesitant to put their reputation, their rank, or anything on the line when politics is like the most powerful thing around. And I mean, you could see that in the news and otherwise today. So
this is some from my line of work, you know, the civilian side, double jeopardy. Were you tried in 2013 and does not double jeopardy apply in the military, or can they just bring it back up again?
That was my first things I said. I'm like, this is double jeopardy. What the hell? They're like, no, NJP doesn't count as court martial. So that was their way around it, is that we did the NJP. And by the way, our NJP was Commodore's mask because it was an 06 that did it, not just a regular commander or the CO of a command. It was an 06. So the next step up is an admiral. So there it is. They're like, well, we'll just take him to court martial this time and we'll get him that way. Millions of dollars spent, 4 lives damn near destroyed. The officer, you know, he got kicked out of his platoon, had to go through this shit and watch his boys deploy. Luckily, I just came back and was still working as if nothing happened, which was great. And I really, you know, that was a moment for me to really be grateful for the people that I did work for. And then the other 2 dudes, very similar situation. They just happened to be younger. But he ended up getting, the officer would never have gotten promoted again the way the Navy system works and evals and otherwise, and missing his milestone, he would have just never got promoted. So he was pushed out, and the younger guys stayed in. And I think one of them still in, the other one retired. I retired.
I've heard it explained that way before. And to me, that's one of the bullshit things about the way the military does their operations is, man, you get that check mark or that box checked on your file, the rest of your career will always come back to that checkbox. It doesn't matter if you were not found guilty or you were exonerated, the checkbox still stays checked.
That's the truest thing as well, because when so in my former line of work for SEALs, you have to hit a milestone after like E6 to gain, 7, 8, and 9. And the way the Navy, we were still under the regular Navy grading system for gaining rank. So you go up as a chief against all these other chiefs. Time and rank matters. And I had 8 years as a chief, or 7 or whatever. But then they go, all right, who's got bad paperwork in their folder? And then you get set in another pile, and then set in another pile. So it was like, once I had that letter, it was like, I never made 8 after that. It was funny when I was telling you, about when I was at the first team, Team 2, and we got in trouble for all the war crime stuff that they were trying to pin on us. The CO of our team immediately took the word of these other Army guys. Didn't even care what we had to say. Immediately thought we were guilty. That was a huge stab in the back for me. That was like the catalyst of my bad taste and distrust for politics and otherwise. Not only did he immediately think we were guilty, he capitalized on that later on, and when we went up for our board with all the senior enlisted right before Commodore's Mass, writes a letter, doesn't even show up, doesn't even sign it, but writes a letter and gives it to him to basically burn us and kick us out of the SEAL teams. Of course, that was discarded, because that was, I don't think, was very professional or proper. And we got exonerated after that. So, not sure where I was going with that, but that was definitely a moment in my career of man, when the people are supposed to get your back, they don't. It's really disheartening, because as a young leader, I was in a position of, I just did the best I had with what I had. And even if that wasn't good enough, it would have been great to learn a lesson instead of being burnt to the ground, like I said.
No, and that's where I was going with, or said previously, the way the military does their things. You mentioned you got to hit your milestones. You get wrapped up in a case. Hey, granted, for whatever it is, the case has to work its way through. But then if you're exonerated, you've got no way to go back and make up that time. You're screwed. Because you get the call it a blessing. You were exonerated. You weren't found guilty of anything, but it still jacks up the remainder of my career. There's no way. There's no retroactive oh, okay, well, we'll pretend like you hit all your milestones. Yeah. So I think that's one of the things that I, at least on the surface, seems bullshit to me.
It was tough to come back from it. I mean, excuse me. Even though joining a new team, coming in late, was still in the top 5 of the chiefs there at the command, then going over to the training command, and end up, it just so happened, I end up being the top E7 in one of the systems, because everyone's getting promoted. So next thing you know, I'm like the most senior E7 that should be an 8, and 3 times get passed up for it, crushing the milestone. Even to where it's a guy that I made chief makes E8 before I do. Look, I cared for 2 things: my family, my livelihood, and sometimes, missing those things is just compounding. Not only letting my family down, my career's crashing. The minute I think I'm doing very well, it's nobody cares. That was probably the toughest part for me, man. Is no one stepping up and being hey man, are we going to support this dude? More than just innocent until proven guilty, which luckily, I got that.
So when did you get out?
I retired at the end of 2019 in November.
What was your plan getting out? Did you have a plan?
No. I'll just be simple.
20 years as a SEAL, going into an operation without a plan.
I thought I did. So here was my plan, right? It all fell apart. So I did actually. Here it is. So while I was going through all that shit, went to the Honor Foundation. So the Honor Foundation was a great structured educational program for guys, SOF operators. At least that's the way it started. From like getting out to finding your next mission. And for me, I was like, what the fuck is that? No idea. No idea what I wanted to do. Just like we were talking about earlier. Here I am doing my dream job, trying to avoid jail, but I'm not going to slow down. Still married, rough relationship, mainly probably my fault. Not probably, mainly my fault. I don't know how to deal with what I'm doing. And I think I'm like drinking about a half a handle of vodka, probably like every other day. Got a beer cooler in the back, a tap, drinking beers, being at home, just functioning, trying to survive, right? So I'm like, all right,
without turning it into a therapy session, what do you think was driving the large amount of drinking? Had you always just been a huge drinker?
No, I mean, I could think back to before the Navy or my whole Navy career. Yeah, I probably went out every weekend or had beers on the weekend, went out with the guys, but obviously that slowed down the minute I got married, had kids. I think the only time I really went out partying or anything like that was whether me and my wife went out or I was on a trip with the guys. And that was probably the only time I went out drinking. But here I am, I'm doing it at home. Completely abnormal. I had a beer keg, got a beer, ended up getting a beer keg, and I'm like, now I'm just like, wasn't like getting angry or doing shit. At least that I don't think I was. But I was sitting there drinking all the time. Just trying to deal with the stress and other shit. Like just things to bury it, So,
are you in the Honor Foundation before you get out, or is this like one of the first things you do?
No. I'm in the Honor Foundation before I get out. So, I got a recommendation from some of the guys there. It's like, hey man, did you do the Honor Foundation? I'm like, I haven't yet. What do you want to do? No fucking clue. So I'm thinking about starting school and I'm thinking about, all right, I want to do this transition program. So figure I'll do something while I'm doing nothing. So I do the transition program, meet some people. We actually did our, I'll fast forward, that you do a bunch of interviews, mock interviews, people of industry. And we did our, what I'll call a trek down in Dallas, Texas. So we actually went down, visited with a bunch of different companies. They explained some stuff to us. And then we actually went to one of the schools because the VP of people or whoever was leading it all, she went to, what is the name of the school? SMU. So Southern Methodist University in Dallas. We went to their Cox School of Business, I think was their business school there, and met a bunch of people there. So one of the other places we went to is a company called Weir Oil and Gas, another big oil and gas company down there. So did I have a plan? No, but going through the Honor Foundation, I developed one. So through all those different relationships, I met someone that was a doctor, but went and did her executive MBA at SMU. Boom, I had an in. I didn't have a bachelor's degree. They're like, that doesn't matter. I was like, really? Okay. So I applied for their executive MBA program, got right in. Here it is. Now I'm making moves to think about, we're going to Texas. Then working with someone over at Weir Oil and Gas, who also knew the person leading the Honor Foundation's people stuff, connect me with someone down there, and they're like, hey, we're going to create this new leadership program where we take SOF vets or Honor Foundation veterans, and we're going to put you through this leader program, and you're going to work in these different departments through Weir Oil and Gas. And then at some point, we're going to stick you somewhere as a leader. So here I am, trying to avoid all the shit with the military, working through the marriage pit and family troubles that I'm having, and here comes the light out of it. I get accepted in the MBA program. I don't even have an undergrad. So set up right there. Not only that, but the company Weir Oil and Gas offers me a job. So now I have a job offer with the ability to do the MBA program. So get a master's, become a leader, got a job. But my wife at the time is just helped her get a GS job. So she's like, I don't think I want to go to Texas. And I'm like, kind of like, what? I'm like, here it is. I have a future for us. Out of this crap, I've made something out of it. But long story short, for her, I ended up turning down the job in Texas. And then, she's basically like, I'm moving out. And I'm like, okay.
Couldn't have told me this before I declined the job in Texas.
No. This was part of it.
Oh.
This is all part of that. So basically, as the story goes here, I turned down the job because I'm like, hey, I don't think I'm going to move. And I was kind of discussing the price of it all and compensation, and I don't know if it was going to be a good fit. And then I had to do the other thing, is call my MBA program, executive MBA program, and say, hey, I have to decline. I'm going to get a divorce. I have no plan on moving down there, and I'm still dealing with the court martial. So not retired yet, like I thought I'd be. Still dealing with the court martial bullshit, the divorce, the separation, and bam, I just turned everything down. So here I am back at the drawing board. Still not sure what I want to do.
What was the pivot point off that then?
Yeah, so the pivot point that happened is, I can't remember when it happened, but right as I was getting out, through the Honor Foundation, I connected with one of like a coach or mentor who's also been a great friend of mine, great mentor, friend, someone that I can always call and talk to as well. And he actually coaches so I had one, and then I ended up having another friend afterwards who I still see today, a guy named Jay Barber, great man, great person. He actually was investing in or had a relationship with someone with another kind of startup company. They're a company that developed like a fuel product that created better combustion, fuel efficiency, blah, 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 blah. And they wanted a guy to come in and help with their sales department. So basically be a sales engineer, basically figure out, here's our product, here's how we make it, here's our customers on the other side that we're targeting. How do we connect the two and build a process to bring it to market or get someone involved? So I was fortunate enough, got a job offer. They were up in LA. So every other week I was driving up there, spending a couple of days, staying in some shitty hotels, and then coming back down. I didn't start that job until close to October. So separated in April, charges, everything dismissed September, August-ish. So somewhere in there I started that new job.
How was that working for you? Did you like it?
Man, I was like full throttle at it. I'm like, I got purpose again. I'm able to bring some value. The court shit's done. Court martial's done. I'm going to get my retirement. I'm going to get all my benefits. I have a future for me and my kids. And then I met someone else who I'm still with today. Like I said, I proposed back in July. Things are looking up. Besides the traveling back and forth piece, things were going pretty well.
Granted, you didn't walk out of the military on the greatest situation. Probably really took a lot of wind out of your sails, so to speak, at the tail end of your career. But how did you like being out? How did you like being a civilian? And was that job giving you enough purpose?
Yeah, I mean, that's, I think the next part of the story is, yeah, man. I mean, that whole war crime bullshit took huge wind out of my sail, man. Not only that, but like me as a person, you know, everything I've spent the 10 years previous building up with my family, I was just now like, great, now I have to do this all on my own. Now I lost the opportunity of raising my children for half of their childhood. A lot of shit I had to deal with, but pivoting into that role, I was like, here it is again. You know, finances will be okay. And now I have somewhere else to like put my passion and have an impact. To be honest, that role was okay, but it goes to kind of, I think something we discussed earlier was, you know, in the private sector, some people are just not built for like putting in that effort, going full throttle, giving it what they have. And I had to go from like 100 miles an hour to like
neutral.
Yeah. That or like driving in a school zone, you know, like 20 miles an hour, like, okay, like people crossing the road every 10 minutes. So that was a big change for me too, you know, and then COVID hit.
Now, did COVID impact that job?
So yeah, actually, that was another opportunity that I became, I think, more dependable. Cause now I'm going to the manufacturer, making sure our product's getting made. And actually we pivoted to hand sanitizer. So from making a fuel product to now making hand sanitizer, and the company made a shit ton of money. But then I was like, all right, now I got to ship it. Now I got to make sure it's made. You know, who else is going to do this? So, you know, it's me going there, driving up to, you know, the shitty part of LA or wherever it was that I can remember, making it work.
So how long does that last for you? And the reason, obviously, because we're going to get into what you're doing today in your own company.
Yeah. So after like COVID kind of like started wearing off a little bit, they made a bunch of money, bought this big office in an office building, you know, in a more fancier place rather than where we were in some shitty office building. And then try to like capitalize on the whole hand sanitizer thing. But it's like, you know, that kind of wore off. People are like, I don't need that shit anymore. You know, whatever. I worked there for...
So as a company, they didn't want to pivot and go back to their oil...
You know, they were trying to figure a bunch of shit out. But the thing that happened is they hired on 2 other people that haven't been there that long. They had like a degree. I was working on my degree. I actually pivoted during COVID, started working on my bachelor's degree instead of working on like a special operations degree that kind of aligned with my career. I aligned it to what I was doing. So I started working on my bachelor's of business administration, working in supply chain logistics. So anyways, brought in 2 other people, promoted them already in front of me. And I was just like, what the fuck? What the hell is this shit? Long story short, I don't know what they ended up doing. I ended up getting laid off.
Now, does that immediately pivot you into wanting to open your own company, or how does that come about?
No, what that did is actually like me and my family. So I'm living with my girlfriend at the time, her 2 kids, and then doing the custody thing with my ex. And we're just like, we want to get the hell out of California. This place sucks. I got to like wear a mask and do all this stupid shit. You know, it's just very expensive. And then I got laid off and everything. So I'm looking for another job and talking about moving out of California with my ex as well. She was talking about it. So I'm working on like, how can we have a win here and get the hell out of here? I just so happened to land an opportunity with a kitchen and bath company in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Now, your kids from your first marriage,
yeah,
they're still here in California, or did they go with you?
No, so we were still working on it. Like, hey, like I'm gonna get out of here. Like, you guys want to move to the East Coast too? Her and her boyfriend or the kids as well. So that was a conversation. And then what ended up happening is I ended up having the kids for the summer, all their breaks. I'd fly back and forth a shit ton, and it just became this point to where it's like I couldn't do it anymore. So just for 2 years, I couldn't do the distance thing anymore. It was killing me. It's killing my relationship. It was killing my relationship with the kids. Even though they get to spend like 3 months with me in the summer, it just wasn't ideal. Like who the hell wants to spend 3 months away from their kids?
It's easier when you're 30 minutes away as opposed to 3,000 miles away.
Exactly.
Came back to California when?
About 2 years ago. Yeah, so I took 2 years away. Me and my girlfriend spent some time apart. I came back to California, kind of reestablished myself. Between that, I finished my bachelor's degree. I went to Harvard Business School, did one of their executive business programs, did that for about a year. So it was like one program was about 7 months, and then the other program was about like 4 months. And combined, you get a Harvard Business School alumni. You don't get a master's, but it's like kind of like their accelerated executive MBA type thing, but you don't get a master's.
What's your motivation for wanting that?
For me, it was network. It was like knowledge.
Do you have anything lined up when you came back to California?
Yeah. So after school and kind of stretching it all along, I ended up getting a contracting job with a contracting company, training like brand new EOD guys and like SEAL stuff pretty much. So I was like a firearms instructor / like tactics instructor. So everything I did in the SEAL teams, just now I'm teaching it to newer EOD guys.
So then when does it happen? What causes you to go, hey, wait a minute, I can do my own thing and go that direction?
Yeah. So here comes another transition story, right? So I come out here, I just get that job, just as kind of a transition, but I like it. I'm working 4 hours a day. Sometimes we go up to another base up north, and do some training for about 2 or 3 days. And that was it. So I'd go to the range for like 4 hours a day, do my normal schedule, do my normal custody thing, do my normal kid thing. And I got a pretty great routine going on while I'm looking for other work. I ended up doing that job for the better part of a year, starting in June. Goes up for, how government contracting works, right? Contractor has the job. Another goes up for bid. Some other companies come in, they place a bid. It's like, hey, what's up? Well, 2 weeks before we're out of a job, they're like, hey, we didn't get the contract. Not only that, but you guys and about 52 other people don't have a job now. The new contractor brought on 0 people.
Wow.
But who knows? It could have been a lie. Could have been whatever they told anybody else, but there it is. I'm laid off again. So now I'm trying to think about what I want to do. Or I want to start my own thing. I didn't really do anything, to be honest. I didn't do much after that job.
Yeah. What's keeping you motivated with these constant kicks in the gut?
Just keep working towards it. I mean, I'm not going to quit and give up. But
did you have was there any type of end goal in mind for you through all of these jumps?
Yeah, I started working on a couple different businesses. One was I was going to start my own recruiting company. Basically, how it works. I go to a company and say, hey, you got some roles you need to fill, huh? All right, well, for a percentage or a fee, I'll help you fill that role. So I was going to start getting into that. But then I realized real quickly, I was like, nah, that's just not my thing. It was someone else's. That's why someone else was helping me get into it. But I was like, nah, I don't really feel like that's my thing.
I think a lot of us tend to do that. We have friends or acquaintances who do something like, oh, I guess I could go do that job, when you really aren't in line with it.
Yeah. It's where I kind of felt like more of man, I really need to lean into more of my passions. Because I always hear that. If you're going to start something, you need to be passionate about it. Because if you're not, then what's going to keep you driven to do that? I mean, I'm not I'm driven by money a little bit, but I'm not that. That's what gets me up in the morning. Purpose and be able to bring value, helping others be successful. I mean, I don't know. That's just very satisfying for me.
Well, I think it's something that a lot of people don't realize is finding that next career. Part of it is finding that thing that's going to give you that purpose.
Yeah.
And it may not, as you experienced, it may not be the first try, it may not be the second try, but don't lose sight of what your purpose is and be able to pivot to it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I interviewed for many jobs, different roles. I mean, I wanted to get into sales. I mean, I worked besides my own businesses right now, like I work part-time at a gun shop, or tactical shop, whatever you want to call it. We sell guns there. We also do training and everything else. So I'm trying to help with all that stuff. But, it's something I've just realized lately is like, I get so much satisfaction about interacting with people and helping them solve a problem. In this case, it's helping them buy a gun. I mean, I want to arm everybody, So, but it's just so great. And even the people I work with is great too.
How does your own company come about?
I finally pick up another job working for a construction company as a project manager. So I haven't been doing my own businesses or anything in between that. It was just unemployment and survival. And then burning all the money I had on my credit cards. So at that point.
How'd you like getting into the construction industry?
I was kind of excited about it because it was something new. And then what this construction was doing, this construction company is in healthcare. So also cool, right? I have the medical background. But their play was to put these power plants on the properties of these skilled nursing centers because of an assembly bill that California passed. So basically it was like, hey, if you're a hospital or a medical facility, you have to be able to have your own power for like 96 hours or more, which is cool projects, but a lot of politics, a lot of other shit. What I think they did is they hired like 5 SEALs and another special SWIC guy. And I think they had this epiphany of like, oh shit, we have like 5 dudes that are ready to work, but we have like this much work for them. And it became just this really toxic office environment for me, to be honest, where it's like, hey man, you got some work? Like, what can I do? There's always just like some paperwork stuff to do. But me and these other guys are working in there. I'm like, hey, what do you got for me? Nothing. And then we got laid off.
Do you ever think of going back and leaning into the actual medical training and go EMT or firefighter or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm 47 now, so some of those things are like, I'm sure there's an age limit on some stuff, but no, I actually went through this after all the construction shit played out the way it did, I was like, man, fuck, dude, I can't count on anybody. And we actually started our training company while we were there, off of necessity. But I'm like, what if I became like a PA or a nurse practitioner or some crap? Not a doctor, but I'm like, dude, that's like 6 years of school. And I'm like, I'm 47, I'm going to be 47, I should say. I'm like, last thing I want to do is spend like the next 6 years in school just to make just over 6 figures. I mean, at the end of the day, like, okay, I'm going to go from like a 6-figure job to go to school, making some money, going to school, and then to go through 6 years of school just to make another similar paycheck. So at that point, I was kind of like, fuck that. And I'm like, I'm going to bust my ass for me with my friends to make that money. If I'm going to do it. I was just kind of overworking for other people because nobody really cares about you.
When you look at it from the 30,000 foot view, it almost seems like the natural progression where you're going to end up being your own boss just because of wanting that control and wanting more of a say in how the game's played.
Yeah, I mean, that's a nail on the head right there. I mean, I care about people and care about others that I put them in front of myself to a fault, unfortunately. But this is who I am. I really care. I really care about others and like the success of others, to where it's like I put myself out to make sure others are successful or put first, just because I'm just a caretaker kind of person. Maybe it plays into me being a father too. One of the other things that I love, but that's just who I am.
And so the training company now is Redwatch?
Yeah. Yeah.
And what's your mission set primarily?
Yeah. So we want to help others, give them the knowledge that we've learned when we were in the SEAL teams, 60 plus years of experience. I mean, I have 20 myself. I like to carry a firearm just in case, because I want to protect my family. I'm surrounded by other peoples in the community. I don't see them, but I know people buy a lot of guns. I mean, California has the largest, I think, gun ownership in the U.S., the state itself. I think it's like largest amount of guns, maybe not gun owners, whatever.
No one really owns them.
Yeah, but the number in there is such to where I'm like, I want people to be confident and capable around me. There are very bad people in this world. People are very naive to think otherwise. They watch too much TV or news, but there are people out there that I've seen and that I've encountered that want what you have and they're willing to take it from you. So I want to make sure people are trained and ready and they're taken care of.
What advice do you have for getting a business like that off the ground?
There's probably a lot more things I'd talk about before I'd say that, but that plays into like being passionate about it. Like I wake up every day thinking about what I can do. Cause I'm fortunate. And I'll step back for a second. I've always talked with a lot of different friends and other, a lot of them are SEALs of like, man, all I want to do is get back into that platoon of like friends. I want to work with my friends, be successful and know that they're taken care of. And out of a necessity of being asked to host a couple of ranges and different opportunities, because I've been to tons of nonprofit events. I'll use like SEAL Future Foundation's one of them. Great foundation supporting SEALs that me and my friends have probably went and helped out and supported ranges for them or other organizations. I just shout out them because it's one that I'm close to. Is we're asked to like host ranges, or like we're getting asked to do these things. Me and a couple different guys are like, hey man, let's come together. Let's do our own thing. Because I've seen other people that I've served with that are doing as well. And it's very inspiring, like very inspiring. Like I see a lot of guys, a lot of SEALs that are doing the similar thing that are very successful. And it's super inspiring to people like myself to where it's like, hey guys, we can do this. We can have this group of us. We can come together and we can like train and do other things just like everyone else is doing and have a big impact on society. So
are you training shooting and movement or just primarily shooting at this point?
I laugh for a second because, that's what we're thinking. Like, all right, we're going to do military law enforcement, which we do. We work with some law enforcement and we're looking to build out some more in that and get more into the military side of things. But we're like, yep, we're going to get these guys that are kitted out, that want to shoot, and we're going to do the shoot and move thing, which we do. We do some of that. But our largest customer lately, or I should say from the inception, has been mom or dad, women that are nervous about firearms, but want to get a gun, want to protect themselves. They see what's happening in society and they're like, I want a gun. I want to protect me and my children. And it's not the like moving around and shooting and being cool. That's a very small percentage, I'll say. It's the people, it's like the confidence builder. Because guns are, I think, a bit taboo and scary for some people, especially women. Not judging women or saying that that's for sure the case, but it's the thing of like someone moving outside of their comfort zone and doing something hard, like
for a lot of people, probably never even handled a gun before.
Yeah, it's like a bit of a crucible. You know what I mean? And we bring this small group of women or people together, and they do this thing that they're completely uncomfortable with, know nothing about. Come to people like myself or otherwise that are like, yeah, gun, cool, whatever. It's like putting something in my pocket, right? I'm very familiar with it and I'm comfortable. That they have this like light bulb moment of not just how to handle and use a firearm, but they gain this confidence and this thing of like, I completed something and I conquered it. Maybe not completely, but just that enough to move them from like shaking or nervous to like, all right, cool. I'm okay with some danger or something dangerous.
Do you find it difficult to secure training locations, or has that been pretty easy for you?
I'm not going to say anything about it's been easy. Starting a company, not getting that, but the locations are through relationships we've found. We've found a couple of private properties and ranges here in Southern California that we've developed trust and met like very patriotic and great humans, I'll call them, because they are great people that have brought us in and let us train and do stuff on their property.
Because you brought up a great point. There are probably a lot of guns in California.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of shooting facilities in California.
No.
Or at least publicly available shooting facilities.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, a lot of different companies and training organizations utilize the properties that we utilize as well. So they're set up as ranges. They're just not open to the public. You know, you got to know somebody or otherwise.
Yeah.
So
what's your long-term projection? Do you have a vision yet for where you want your company to grow to?
Yeah. So it's me and 4 other SEALs right now. So not just my vision, it's our vision. You know, I think what we want to do, you know, at least what the group is, you know, besides train people and get them ready. I mean, you know, we're looking just to get into, you know, we're building a brand as well. You know, it's our brand, it's our, you know, it's our stuff, right? So, just looking to get more into training law enforcement, locally. We've been doing stuff with some of the Sheriff's Department, or I should say San Diego Sheriff's Department. They've been amazing. We've had them out to train with us. We've been out there to train with them. In fact, I transitioned on my pistol from iron sights to a red dot finally. And some of those guys are like, hey, come on out. We got a course. We'll help you. Because I was like, man, I'm old. I'm trying to just like shed that old stuff and get into the new. And now I'm just like, man, I'm so glad I did it.
Did you go to red dot because your eyes are going, or just because you want to be more current?
Well, I mean, a little bit of both, right? A little bit of both. You know, yeah. So training, passing on the knowledge to like law enforcement, other agencies, training military, and then really building a pipeline of certifying and training civilians as well. So recently, I just submitted all my stuff to be a California CCW instructor, so that way I can certify people. So that's another part that we're looking to play a realm in, is in certifying not only just civilians here, but then getting them out on the range to putting that together. Because I mean, I've seen some of the people that do these training courses, you know, nothing against them, but some of them are it's just a money machine, you know, whether or not they want to actually make someone capable or just go through the motions good enough and then arm someone or give someone the capability to carry it out in town. I'm like, I feel like, you know, I just have that. And a lot of the other guys feel the same way. Feel like they have a responsibility to train these people and pass on what we've done as well.
There's so much to it. There's the aspect of getting familiar with the weapon.
Yeah.
Then there's the aspect of carrying the weapon.
Yep.
Then there's the mental space of, you got to understand, you're not pulling it out to show it. You're pulling it out to use it.
Yes.
Are you in the right mental space to pull it out to use it?
Yeah. I mean, that's why another reason we named the company Redwatch, you know, is, you know, red means danger or whatever. I'm not saying this is our explanation, but it's just my explanation at the moment is, you know, it's a watch, man. Like we stood the watch for our country and now we're not in the military anymore. And now we have to help people stand the watch for their neighbors, their local communities, their families. And I mean, it's not easy. You have to go through all those things that you just said, to, I think, be capable or in a position to do it. I mean, going through even the courses that I had to get into, you know, we even had like one of the lawyers that works, you know, so USCCA is a great organization for like personal carry insurance, stuff like that. And I went through a course with a lawyer there and that scares the shit out of me. Like just the way, you know, this state alone governs, you know, their 2A community on firearms. You have to be very sure and certain. And in any situation, I would just be like what you said. If I'm pulling out my gun, it's because I'm using it. I'm doing everything possible up until that point to where I make that decision. And I know in my head 100%, this is the next step to ending this threat or situation.
You ever thought, and there's no way to know for sure, you ever thought about how much money you've spent in ammo? When I say you've spent, how much money the Navy spent on you in ammo over the years?
I was going to say how much I spent on ammo. Not very much. Yeah. I mean, a lot. Man.
I mean, I don't think the civilian population knows the amount of shooting that you really need to do to get proficient and what it costs when it's coming out of your pocket.
I mean, the military alone, probably over the course of my career and for 20 years, probably spent millions of dollars. Ammo, I don't know. And I'll tell you what, I'm a better shooter now than I was in the SEAL teams.
Really?
I mean, when you're in the military, there's a lot of things you do. It's not always shooting, but everything we did ended up to a point to where I have a gun.
Right.
I have a gun in my hand at some point. It was really on you a lot too. So now they have better facilities, better training areas. So now they're, you have the ability to go do that a lot more. When I was in, there wasn't always that. There was, but there was always like when you're in a leadership role, there's tons of paperwork, administrative bullshit. There's always other training. You got to go get your medical stuff done, your dental stuff done. Hey, we got gear issue. Or it's like we're leaving to go do a different training block where there's not always live fire.
Bringing this into an end, any last piece of advice you want to make sure somebody gets from you, your experience transitioning, what you're doing today?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I can tell people for transitions, jobs, or otherwise is, man, number one, you set your goals first. You got to know what you're going to get out of every situation, every job, or what you're going to do. You have to have your non-negotiables, because if you don't have those, then everything else you're doing is kind of a crapshoot or a guess. That was the one thing that helped me focus on things, right? Like family, my kids, my time, my relationships. I hold those dearly. And then just take a chance on yourself. Don't be afraid to fuck up, pretty much. Because if you spend the time being cautious, you're never going to take yourself to that next level and learn. I mean, I spent my whole life fucking up. How do I say it like that? I spent my whole time messing up, and that's where I learned a lot of my valuable lessons. Some of them were harder than others, but you got to do it. And if you're going to spend your days doing something for you and your family, be passionate about it. Have it be something you wake up thinking about and going to bed at night thinking about. Not necessarily, but it's got to be able to have an impact on your life and others. So that's my recommendation.
I appreciate you sharing your time, sharing your story. And I wish you all the best going forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you again.
Yep.
As always, thank you for listening or watching the episode. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to reach out on social media or send me an email. The links are all in the show notes. I'd love to hear from you. Also, if you're not already, please follow the podcast on whatever platform you get your podcasts. You can also subscribe on YouTube. And if you would, please leave me a rating. Ratings do two things. You can tell me what I need to fix or improve, and the more ratings also gets the podcast recommended to more people. Another ask, please share the podcast with anyone you think could benefit from and enjoy it. And last, don't forget, sign up for the newsletter.